So Cesar, this was a very cathartic viewing experience, very cathartic for the characters in the film as well.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how making this project may have been cathartic for you as an artist.
It was cathartic from the beginning. Even the first time that I decided to confront myself to this research, because it's not only the research that itself, the archives, documentaries, and everything linked to the history of Guatemala, but it's also a research inside myself, actually. And my relationship with the country, my relationship with my father, and my relationship, of course, the relationship with the mother. And I think it was cathartic when I finished the script. There I feel like I dropped something, and then everything that happens after this was just a pleasure. But yeah, it was like for me, it was like this.
Is this an idea you carried with you for a very long time and knew you needed to make?
Yeah, I keep it with me from, I think, 1909, which is like 10 years. And I started writing, I think, for real in 12. So it's been 7 years that I'm writing and trying to develop the film. Of course, I did many other things. I mean, I edit films, I wrote on the script, blah, blah, blah. But the idea of doing it, yeah, I keep it from a long time. And I think it's a generational thing, because all the people of my age who was touched by the violence of the dictatorship in Guatemala, we have the same obsession about this history, about how to heal these open wounds, how to deal with the past, how to deal with the secrets, and then yeah, I think we keep it for a long time, and this is good just to let it go.
Can you tell me more about the research that went into the film, the interviews, the prep? Obviously, this took a great deal of learning about the stories and characters you chose to depict.
Yeah, I think it was very painful because, I mean, I heard stories like this all my life. But when you start doing proper research, and you have to read not one but hundreds of these stories, that really affects you at some point. I remember having nightmares. I remember being sarcastic or cynic at some point of this story, because I need some distance to just keep thinking about it. I think in Guatemala there's two books that are important. One is Guatemala Never Again, which was it's the story of the dictatorship, and the other is the notes from the church that have been taken during the war. This is I name it a bloody book, because you open the book, you can read 10 pages, and then there's blood everywhere, and then you have to close it, and then let it just rest for a few days, and then you can come back. And then there's documentaries, and there's meeting people, actually, meeting real victims, meeting people that works with the subject, like the foundation that I shoot. And then when I found them, I found a mind goal, because they have almost everything. They have the field work.
Gold mine.
The gold mine, yeah,
yes,
gold mine. They have the field work. They have everything, and the most important thing, they have the science that brings some answers to the victims, and that was a key point for me.
Yeah, the research process must have been very analogous to what the main character is going through, and I can imagine that helped you.
And actually, the actor did the same thing. I mean, he came with me. He read a lot of books and documentaries and testimonies, and I was like, I bring him to Guatemala, just meeting people. Like, you have to talk with him, and then I will come back in 2 hours. And then just because for me, what's important that he will understand what really happens.
Is this a common element in your collaborations where you want to bring the people you're working with along for research or just to learn as much about the project as they can, to immerse them, steep them in the information?
Yes, I think it's important, and it's important even not only for the actors or the producers, but also for the DOP, the production designer, the sound recordist, everyone was having like notes and books, and you have to see this film, you have to read this book, and then we discuss it, and then they try to also to understand, because the Guatemalan history is not known at all. So they was like shocking just learning that genocide happened there, and they wasn't aware of it. And then I think it's important because when you bring a European crew to Guatemala, they don't have to be tourists. They have to be people commit with the subject, and they have to understand what's happening there. If I were work with a Guatemalan crew, I think that the process will be different. But anyhow, they will have to read, and we will have to read together and watch many things together.
Well, it's a testament to your leadership that the rest of the team was willing to put in that extra work with you to learn about the subject and really get close to the material.
Yeah, and I think that the crew knew also that it was a very personal story that really it was like painful for me. So they were very careful about the things that they were saying, or they really tried to understand. And at some point, I think they trust me also, because it's not easy to go to Guatemala and shoot a film like this.
Can you tell me a little more about working with both the real actors and the non-actors, and how you elicited such strong performances?
I think that the work with the actors was very academic, like the way we used to do things, like the table work, and then the research, and then the rehearsals, and Emma Dib, the mother character, she's a teacher in the theater school, in the National Theater School, so she knows very well the process. And then with the non-professional actors, actually I choose it because they were. I choose the people for they what are actually. I mean, the friend is a friend of mine, the boss is a friend of mine, and the victims are not a friend of mine, but we knew each other during the research process. So, and for me, the most important thing is that the actors found a tone, a very realistic tone, with the acting with non-professional actors, and I think that non-professional actors don't allow you to lie or to represent. They force you to be true, and that's what happens actually, I think, at the end of the story.
Can you tell me more about how you formulated the tone for the film? It feels both kind of like a message of despair, but also an immensely hopeful story. And there's also all of this imagery. It starts with death and ends with death, but the first skeleton and the last skeleton hold different emotional meaning.
Yeah. I think I built it by the relationship of the character with the past, which means the death, and the relationship that they have with the simple objects that suddenly mean other things. Like the skeleton, when you start to build it, when you start from the toes, and for a very long time there's only bones. But when you put this sculpt where a human being just appears, and I think this I build it like the character. I believe like this, and also I think I build it the whole story. I build it like this, like put just little pieces, like a skeleton, and I don't see it like a hopeful message. I think it's more like the possibility of more. And I think more is not really the hope. I don't know if I can explain the difference, because I think hope you are expecting for something better, I think, and in more you are just accepting your fate. And I think this is the main thing that I want to go deeper in. I build it, not like hoping something, like just accepting something.
Right. I would argue that even the idea of accepting your fate and moving on, that's hopeful. Living more life is a hopeful effort.
Yeah, sort of, but it's not trying to. I think they are not trying to be better. They are not trying to go somewhere. They are not trying to. They are just trying to deal with their griefs and their wounds. And that's that huge thing for the characters.
Right. And it's clear they've been through such a devastating past that maybe there is no clear hope for the future, and it's just a matter of healing as much as they can from what's happened.
Yeah, that's. I think you described it very well, because they're not trying to. I think when you go through something like this, the only thing that you can do is try to heal yourself. There's no other option, because you are so destroyed inside, and you have this emptiness, you know. With Armando, we work a lot about the feeling of emptiness, and we are trying just to close it. I mean, to feel it, and there's the only thing that you can do. You cannot try to think of being someone else.
And you mentioned that that's why you wanted to center the film around the female characters, because they suffered the most of everyone in the equation, since they have to live with what happened.
Yeah. But because of then, I'm sorry, the men was that, so they are not suffering anymore. Mm-hmm. But the women still, they have to live with rapes and with this violence, with the missing ones, trying to find the missing ones, trying to get justice for them, and but as I said, I think I want to also to make a generational film, and I don't feel legit to put the point of view in the women, even if there's a film about women. But I think the main character drives you there, and this is the thing that I like in the film. That you're thinking that he's trying to find his father, but at the end of the story, he is getting closer, or he's dealing his relationship with his mother, and this is the thing that I like actually.
And when you say a generational film, you want it to translate to further generations in the future, and
yes,
the story to be passed on. And
yes, of course. I think this can be an object, an educational object, not trying to be like an historical document, but an object of to put in front of the new generation that didn't leave the world and then try to understand what happened. Actually.
Can you talk a little bit more about, in the writing or directing or editing process, how you gave the audience space to have those feelings without making it a super political agenda, or almost like a documentary?
Yeah, I think that we always want to be far from the characters because we are in a very emotional story. So if we get closer to the characters, you don't allow the people to feel that they are feeling. You impulse something to them, and I think that begins also in the writing process. Because in the writing process, I want also the people to build their own story, not only with the portraits of the victims. Also, there's very key points where the audience could just think whatever they want to think, or build their own story. And then in the editing process, there was many little too much close shots of setups, and the editor was intelligent enough and has this sensibility to take it out. And I was, no, this is important. No, we have to keep there, and we have to be there, like in the beach. There's only a 2-shot, and then that's it, and you don't have to cut in every sense and see the reactions. And no, there's only this shot, and then that's it. And we don't need it anymore. And this is the space that you give to the audience.
Well, it feels very precise too, the visual language, like the shot of the beach, for example, the two of them from behind. It's really beautiful, and it seems like something that was very deliberate.
Yeah, it was completely deliberate. And actually, the production was like this, because they always said, like, do you want me to do another setup? And I said, wait a minute. I mean, the material that you don't need in the editing room is the more hours you have to deal with your real material, and you don't have this. I name it grasa, graisse, like the oil, like
grease.
The grease.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the grease. I always said we don't need grease.
Yeah, trim the fat.
Yeah.
Along those lines, are there any other important lessons you learned on the film that would change your approach in your next film?
Yes. I think the next time I will take much more time during the shooting process, because I understand that I have to cut one third of the script before shooting, and I think all the last part, the third act of the movie, is going very fast, and it's going very, very fast because I cut everything in script, and then at some point I want just to hold the film, the third act, and I can't actually, and so that my lesson is, even if the production are telling you we don't have money, you have cut the script, don't cut it. I will not cut it. I will just keep it like this, because I think we have like a much more how do you say, grayscale third act if I have all these scenes that I have to cut.
Right, some nuances are lost when you really trim it down.
Yeah.
And do you want to talk at all about the novel you're adapting for your next film, and why this is the right next project?
Yeah, I am adapting The Judges, which is a novel from Arnoldo Galvez in Guatemala. That takes place in a poor neighborhood next to the slum, and there's also a women's story, and it is about the violence against women, and this is also how to make justice in Guatemala, which is a country that doesn't have justice, and I think important for me is like we were talking about filmmaker work that is developing something or some subject,
building towards something.
Yeah, and then I think that will be the right step, because here I'm talking about this justice without this war or political or context, but at the end of the story, still the same roots of this violence and the same roots of this poverty and the same roots of this lack of justice.
Right.
So I think I'm dealing with the same topics, with the same subjects, but right now in this time, not in the past. And also I think I want to make a thriller this time, and just go to some different language, different pace, different way to tell stories, because I think it's challenging, and this is what I want.
Awesome.
Hey, this is Eric from IonCinema.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.